I'm the ordinary investor, and today I'm talking about Palantir Technologies. Now, Palantir Technologies, I invested in Palantir Technologies in December 2022 through to around June 2023. I went heavy on the stock. I put 100% of my portfolio into the stock, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's got a long way to go. Now, Palantir has three main parts to the software. You have the Gotham software, you have Foundry, and you have AIP. Now, Gotham, that was the biggest earner for Palantir when I invested, and they do a lot of work for the government. They did a lot of work for anti-immigration. They did a lot of work for defence of our allies, and it was classed as a black box. They couldn't really give the finer details as to what they did, so a lot of people stayed away from the investment. However, when I saw online, I began to follow. I followed people on Twitter that were giving stock tips and posting links about things. I saw a link to FoundryCon, so I watched FoundryCon, and what they could do with a company's data is absolutely unbelievable. It makes companies so efficient, and I just thought, why would every business not use this? Now, what really made me want to invest in Palantir was a hospital trip that I had. I'd read a couple of weeks previous that the NHS were doing a big deal with Palantir to create a federated data platform. If you're not from the UK, the NHS works in different trusts. So your local area will have a trust. Your health data will only be shared with that trust. So if I need an operation, I think there's 3 hospitals in my area, in my trust, that I will go for an operation in. Now, I went to the hospital, I cut my leg open with a plastering trowel, and I had to have stitches in my leg. I was sat next to an old man who'd been through his thumb there with a still saw, and it was a right mess, and he needed operation and everything. Now, he was sat in that waiting room for he told me 10 hours, whilst he had his hand looked at. He got told that he needed an operation. Then he went into another room. They said, we're going to see if we can get you an operation in another hospital. So he came back, sat for another 45 minutes waiting. And then he went to another room. Oh, I don't know. Have you already had this meeting? We're going to ring this hospital. He said, you've already rang that hospital to see, and you're waiting for him to get back to me. It was an absolute disaster. Now, Palantir will take all the health data from every person in the UK, put it all together, and if somebody needed an operation, an urgent operation, they could put it into the system. It could pre-book that operation, or they would know any spare spaces instantly as to whether he could have an operation in his desired hospital or not. Or is the one further away, you could have it even sooner, you could have it on the day. But they could never ever know this otherwise, because there's too many people in the NHS just writing emails. I'll get back to you on this, I'll get back to you on that. I've even heard that they're sending faxes still. Let's say the next flu season, so this winter comes around and it's forecast to be really cold. They can predict from everybody's health data who might get flu, how many people in each area of the UK might get flu, how many beds they might have to keep open for each individual hospital, what supplies each hospital will need, how many doctors they'll need, how many nurses they'll need, everything. So they can plan months in advance from satellite data. Is it going to snow? How many people? It's ridiculous. The algorithms can predict a lot of things that a person or a team of people, team of data scientists, never could. Now, why am I still bullish on Palantir? Basically, it's the ontology and AIP. Now, the rise of large language models happened stroke of luck, because I didn't know anything about this when I invested. But about 6 months to a year into my investment, ChatGPT became mainstream. And every single large enterprise, every single business wants a tailored version of ChatGPT specifically for their business. That is exactly what AIP offers. Now, the ontology. Palantir will organize your data in a way that gives your data meaning. So it's not good enough to just pile all your data into a server. The AI has to interact with the data as if it was a real thing. So, for example, if you go and speak to somebody in real life, you can ask them a question. They have context. They know the meaning behind the question. However, AI doesn't have that context. But with AIP and the ontology, the way they structure the data and the way that the large language models interact with your data, it can give you context that gives real business outcomes. So you can ask it, say you're a company that really wants to be kind to the environment. That large language model can look at your data, understand that you prioritize the climate and recycling, whatever, over other things, and then when it gives you your answer, it gives the answer to your questions and questions you ask about your business data, it can take that look, it can take that perspective on your business data. However, if you just use ChatGPT, I mean, if I talk to ChatGPT, it doesn't know anything about me, it doesn't know anything about what I do, The large language models just guess the next word. That's all they do. However, with Palantir's AIP and with the ontology, it fuses it together with your data. And it can give you real business outcomes. Now, the other reason I'm so bullish on Palantir is, sadly, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs when it comes to AI. AI agents are going to replace office work. Anybody that works in an office and they don't really actually know what they do, they're just sending emails and going to meetings, those jobs really are gone in the next 2 to 5 years. The other reason is robotics. Now, I've seen Figure AI, I've seen Optimus, Tesla's Optimus, and it's really, really impressive. So a lot of these menial tasks that people do in factory work, in manufacturing, farming, things like this, a lot of it's going to be replaced by robots. Now, all those robots need to be linked to a central source of truth, the data from the business. So each individual robot can be an expert on the data. However, the data really needs to be held secure. There needs to be clearances. You don't want a hacker hacking into one of these robots and have the full data stack. They can see everything about your business. So where do I see the stock going? Now, I think the stock could go up 10x from here in the long run, in the next 10 years, because I seriously think that Palantir is going to become the monopoly on AI enterprise software of the West. In defense, NATO, I think every single nation is going to have to use Palantir. All that data is going to get stitched together, and the West will become stronger due to Palantir. So when you look at the Microsoft market cap or Nvidia market cap, 3 to 4 trillion, there's no reason in my mind that in 10 to 20 years, Palantir could become the biggest company in the world, because it's a necessity. Every company, if you don't use Palantir software, Palantir AIP, to structure your data, use large language models, use agents, AI agents, link it to robotics in future, you are going to be left behind. So every single company, I think, will end up using Palantir. I can honestly see in the next 10 to 20 years, Palantir's got a software monopoly on the West, and there's going to be a lot of politicians that don't like it because they're going to have far too much power. So if you like what I spoke about today, subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you next time.